Hi, my name is Karen Koch. I'm a mixed media artist and urban sketcher, and today I'm doing for you a flip through of one of my recent sketchbooks. I have a small group of folks who get together once or twice a week and we go sketching on location at different parts around the Akron area. We call ourselves the Wandering Sketchers. So most of these sketches were done along with that group. Now this is a Strathmore watercolor journal. It's 8 inches by 5.5 inches. It's 140-pound watercolor paper. The paper is excellent. It's a soft cover book, which I kind of like when I have it in my bag. It takes up less room. It's easy to carry. It has a nice soft finish to the cover. The cover is a nice dark brown color. I like that a lot. The book held up well. I mean, it only took me maybe 7 or 8 weeks to finish the book, but I do carry it with me every day in my bag, so it's getting bounced around with all the other stuff in my bag. But it held up very nicely. The only thing that you might want to see if you're considering one of these books is that the cover is really very soft, and there are a couple of little indentations right up here on the top of the cover. When I'm working in the book, I use a little binder clip to hold the pages open, and that has left some marks on the front cover. Doesn't bother me at all, but it might be something for you to think about if that's going to bother you when you use a book like this. Now obviously I write the dates of the sketches across the front of the book. This is a sticker for a different art group that I belong to. When I finish with a sketchbook or any journal, I write again the dates on the spine so that it's when it's sitting on a shelf, I can find the right book when I'm looking for it. The book did hold up nicely. The spine held up very well, especially considering this one is a landscape style book, and so I end up holding it on my lap and opening it really, really wide to work across both sets of pages, and the stitching and glue both held up really nicely on this book. Inside the front cover, whenever I start a new sketchbook, I always start by writing the date when I begin the book on the inside of the cover so that I know when I started it. And then when I finish the book, I write the ending date inside too. I kind of like, obviously, I like dates. On the facing page here, I wrote down the date of each of our sketch outings and the location. Sometimes I have the location on the pages themselves, but I don't always do that. So someday when I look back through this book, it'll be nice to know where we were each week when we were out sketching. So this was my first time working in one of these long, narrow, panoramic style sketchbooks. So this was at a park near my house. I usually start my sketches by drawing very, very lightly in pencil really quickly just to make sure that my placement and proportions are right. And then I go in and ink it using a fountain pen quite often, and then add some color using a small watercolor travel palette and water brush usually. Following week we were at a park near Akron, and this was my warm-up sketch. I was chasing this little caterpillar down the railing to try to get his sketch. He was in some big hurry to go somewhere. And then when we were finished, we went inside, and the park had a stamp with their design on it, so they let us stamp our pages when we were finished. Now this is a very long, tall, vertical drawing. I was sketching the river and the locks at the park. It's quite a challenge to work this tall out in the field, but challenges are good, right? After we were finished with our sketches that day, we sat, the visitor center for the park had a small band come out and sit on the front porch and play music. So we sat and listened to them for maybe an hour. They were really fun to listen to. And then a couple of days later, some of us went up to Lake Erie, went to Vermilion, Ohio, and did some sketching along the water. The next day we sketched the boats at the marina. I kind of wish I had done this one as one of the long, full panorama formats. I was trying not to take too much time, so I chose just to do a half a page. And then the birds were sitting on the telephone wire chattering up a storm, so I had to do that. And then I actually skipped this format, that set of pages. I'll come back to them in a second. After we left Vermilion, we went to Milan, Ohio, and I wanted to do this sketch of the town hall. It's a beautiful building, and I wanted to do it on a vertical across these sets of pages. And the previous pages had a real big gap in between the signatures. This had a nice smooth gap where the signatures, where the pages were sewn in. So I decided to do this drawing on this page because I wanted to have a nice smooth transition between the pages. Then the following week with my Urban Sketchers group, I went back to this page and just did a sketch on the single side. Let's see if I can bring this up far enough. This set of pages, there is a big gap in between the two sets of signatures, so I knew that would be too lumpy to work across. So that's why I only worked on half a page on this one. It was kind of a gray, rainy day, but we got in some sketching out before the raindrops started. And then once it started to rain, we went into a local bakery and sat and had something warm to drink and a tasty pastry. This was the following week at downtown Cuyahoga Falls, one of the signs on the side of the building. The next week, I had a booth at a local art fair. So in between people and talking and selling artwork, I was able to do just a really quick sketch of the booths across from me. And then the following week, we went to the Cuyahoga Valley National Park and sketched around the MD Garage. That's always a fun place to go. Very scenic, lots of colors. Lots of activity with bicyclers and hikers walking by. And then once in a while, our Wandering Sketchers group goes out for a happy hour sketch. And so for this particular evening, we went to the Naughty Vine Winery in Portage Lakes, and I sketched the decorations on the tables. Beautiful blue wine bottle. And after that, we went out and sat by the water and sketched the boats in the water. It was getting toward dusk and the mosquitoes were getting at us, and I had forgotten my bug spray at home, so I was sketching pretty quickly to try to get the scene. Obviously didn't get much color in there, but at least I got kind of the general idea. And then on the spur of the moment, a couple of us decided to go to the zoo, the Akron Zoo, one morning and sketch the animals. Now, sketching animals is not something I do very often, so I was glad to have the chance to do that. They move quickly, you don't get a whole lot of time to have them pose. The alpaca sat pretty nicely for us, but pretty much all the other animals, they're doing their thing. So the sketches are really quick, they're fast. You have to kind of catch them while you can and then fill in what you can remember off the top of your head once they move. Like the poor lion, he was sitting there and posing so nicely for us, so we pulled out our sketchbooks and started sketching, and then his mate came up and kicked him off the platform. So we had to, he's a little rough, but that's okay. We have a goat sitting on a stump posing for us. The tortoises, even though they're tortoises, they did move around quite a bit. This one is a Galapagos tortoise. This one, I don't remember what type of tortoise he is. He had a smoother shell, different shell. Flamingos, gotta do the flamingos, right? Penguins, they were busy squawking, making a lot of noise. It's kind of fun to watch them. And then the following week we went to Kent and sketched along the river. So my first sketch of that morning was the bridge, which is always a nice scene. And then I went down closer to the water and did this very tall sketch of the water just rushing by, just a real slice of it, looking through the trees at the water. And that is the end of the book. I did not end up doing anything on the inside back cover over here, although I certainly could at this point. And just like on the inside of the front cover, when I start by writing the date of when I begin the sketches, when I start a new sketchbook or journal, I always glue an envelope into the inside back cover. You never know when you're going to pick up, I don't know, a ticket stub or some paper or something that you might want to add into your sketchbook, and so I need a place to put that. So that's something I always do. I ended up tearing the flap off, not quite sure why, but and now I've taken the papers out of it, but all my sketchbooks have an envelope on the inside back cover. So that was my July through September 2018 sketchbook. Thanks for watching. I have plenty more sketchbooks to show you. See you soon.